This was the very ambitious sentence that I wanted you to model a new one on, right? And this, we begin our new work. Shamir Ali is in section C.
Yes, miss.
Right, thank you. All right. So I want you to take a look at the sentence very quickly. Any problems with it? Does anyone have any comment on the sentence? Is it a good sentence?
No, miss.
Why not, Aman?
Uh, Miss, library isn't that great.
Okay, you think it's vague? That's all? That's the only problem you see?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. You're right. You're right to not bring in grammar because it's grammatically perfectly fine, right? There's no error in it. It's relatively simple, right? And it's relatively simple, and it is. What kind of sentence is it, Abdullah Iqbal? Abdullah Iqbal, what kind of sentence is this?
Yes, miss. Miss, it is a simple.
Is it a simple sentence? Does it have one subject only and one verb only?
Yes, miss.
All right. Wasi Imran, would you agree with that? Wasi Imran? Wasi Imran? All right. Wasi is not responding. Aman Zubair, can I hear what you have to say? Aman Zubair? Not here either. Shamir Ali? Shamir Ali? Abdul Rafi Asad? Abdul Rafi?
Yes, miss.
Abdul Rafi, can you tell me if you agree with what Abdullah said, that this is a simple sentence because it has one subject and one verb? Do you agree with that?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss? Okay.
Yes.
How many verbs can you see? What's the verb that you can see, Abdul Rafi?
Miss, I guess there is only one verb.
I'm sorry, I missed your keywords.
Miss, I guess the verb is there only one.
What is the verb that you can see, the doing word?
Eating.
All right, eating. The actual word is eaten, right? Okay, that's one. Is there another word in the sentence that is also a verb? Anyone?
Miss, hungry.
Is hungry a verb? Does it describe something that is happening, that's something being done,
No, miss. Miss, it's
right?
just.
Okay, it's an adjective. It describes a lion, right? So there is another verb. You're close to it. What is the verb? We've all agreed that eaten is one verb. What's the other verb?
Not.
No, not is definitely not a verb. It's helping this idea, but it's not actually a verb. Anyone else? Good, try it out. Anyone else? All right. Look at the word was. All right. I'm picking this up right now, even though we're sort of sorry, even though we are going a little bit away from our actual lesson today, because this is going to be very, very important in tomorrow's class. Wednesday's class. On Wednesday, I'm going to be picking up your assignment from narrative tenses, where I realized there were a lot of gaps in your understanding of how words function and how verbs function especially, right? So this is why I'm picking it up right now. The word hungry here is describing the lion. If we have a sentence, the lion was hungry, full stop, will it make a complete sentence all by itself? Yes or no?
Miss, can you repeat the questions?
I'll repeat the question. The lion was hungry, full stop. If you have only that as a sentence,
Yes, ma'am.
is it correct?
Yes.
Simple.
Right? It's correct. Simple sentence. Very nice. Okay. Now you have some extra detail. Why was the lion hungry? The first strong signal was the use of the conjunction. Anywhere where you have a conjunction, anywhere where you have these joining words, you know it's not a simple sentence anymore, right? So the lion was hungry is one part of the sentence. It's the main part of your sentence. And because it had not eaten any meat in 2 days is your add-on detail. It's your extra detail. It's your subordinate clause, right? Now, this is actually a complex sentence, and it's a kind of complex sentence which is so simple that the examiner doesn't even notice. Remember, we discussed this last time, right? Okay. Now, that's not the purpose of our activity. We're going to move on. But before we move on, let me just clarify the second verb. You were all sure about eaten being a verb. Over here, the word was acts like a verb. All right, it's what we call a helping verb, an auxiliary verb, right? And over here, the whole verb is actually had eaten. All right, and not qualifies it, right? So had not eaten is your verb, had eaten is actually your verb, and was hungry is your verb. Was is your verb, sorry. Was is a helping verb and it's standing alone, right? Over here, had eaten, eaten is your main verb and had is your helping verb, all right? Okay. Now, Aman suggested earlier that the sentence was not so great because it was a little too easy, right? And I'm going to show you another way in which the same sentence can be done. What I want you to do now is to tell me what makes a second sentence better than the first sentence. The first person I would like to respond is Kabir Omar. Kabir?
Yes, miss.
Right. Sweetheart, what makes a second sentence better than the first sentence?
Miss. Miss, good
Yes?
words have been used.
All right. So you think that the vocabulary is making it better?
Yes.
Because what is it about the vocabulary that's making it better? What's special about the vocabulary?
Miss, the two sentences have been merged by a colon.
Very nice, very nice. And Kabir, that's a different point altogether, and I'll come back to this. But can you elaborate on the vocabulary, or do you have nothing more to say about the vocabulary?
Miss, nothing more to say.
Okay, all right. Kabir, what has happened because the two sentences have been sort of joined together by a colon? What happened because of that? What's the effect? What impression does it create compared to the first sentence? Are you unsure?
It is explaining the first sentence.
All right. Okay, it's giving an explanation for why the lion really wanted to eat, right?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Mohadeen, do you have any comment on the difference between the two sentences? Mohadeen? Mohamedin?
Miss, the second one is using like commas and the colons to, they're like using more grammar.
Okay. Is there a comma in the second sentence?
Yes, and like
Where?
hadn't like that.
Okay. Do you remember what we call that comma hanging in the air?
I forgot.
Okay, we got it in apostrophe. All right, the comma is the one which is
Apostrophe,
on
yeah.
the line, right? Okay, the comma is the one which is on the line, and the one hanging in the air is an apostrophe. Okay, so it's using an apostrophe that adds a little more interest, right? And it's definitely used a colon, which is adding interest. Can you give me anything else about what's special about the second sentence?
Walaikum assalam.
Yeah.
Which it also changed, like it added different adjectives instead of the hungry. It was like it wrote maddened instead of hungry by the smell of flesh.
Right, very nice. Okay, I think both of you pointed out that the vocabulary is very effective. And the reason why it's effective is not because it's difficult. None of you had a problem with the words flesh or maddened or eaten, right? But the thing is, it has a much more graphic quality. It creates a picture in your mind immediately, right? So the sharper the picture that you can create with fewer words, the more control you display over your writing. And this is the quality that the examiners are looking for, right? This is the quality which will lead towards an A star, right? Finding the kind of words which create a picture, right? So the second sentence is a lot more graphic in two ways. It is graphic, it creates a picture instantly because of its vocabulary, right? And the other reason is because it has been, it's sort of more dramatic. It presents the information, it shows rather than explaining, right? If you look at the first sentence, the purpose is to explain. The lion was hungry because it had not eaten, right? So we're just explaining why the lion was hungry. We're not doing anything else with that sentence. In the second sentence, on the other hand, the purpose of the writer is not to explain. The purpose of the writer is to make you feel that scene, to make you see that scene, right? So the writer sort of cuts out all the unnecessary words and adds in words which will create a better picture, right? The punctuation helps. You notice that there was a colon. The colon makes the sentence sort of separate sentences sort of joined together so the ideas are very closely connected. But now it's not explaining, it's just sort of presenting, it's showing you. It's just, the writer just put them side by side and the connection hits you in your mind by yourself. He hasn't told you, you see it, right? And this is the key of what you will be doing when you get around to your narrative writing, right? So let's look at another sentence. Ahmed Shafiq, be ready for a response, sweetheart.
Yes.
The race was very exciting as it was my first time as a Formula One driving in a competition against the best drivers in the world. Is there an error in this sentence? Yes, Aman?
Miss, I didn't say anything, miss.
Okay, sorry. Your mic was on, so maybe something that happened. Ahmed Shafiq, is there any error in the sentence?
No.
Okay, good. I assume most of you know what a Formula One driver is. All of you know what a Formula One driver is? Yeah? Anyone
Yes,
doesn't know,
sir.
let me know? Right, okay. I picked the content according to you guys. Okay. So we're talking about a race, right? Car racing, right? And this sentence is written by a student who's trying to show that it's very exciting. Is the writer showing or is the writer telling?
Miss,
Telling.
he's telling.
Okay, the writer is telling. The writer had to say, very good, Nathan and Amal. The writer was saying it was exciting, right? And then he goes on to give an explanation as this was the first time, right? So, and then he gives lots of details about why it was exciting. But the writer hasn't succeeded in showing anything, right? Now look at the next sentence. Take a moment to look at it. I'll be asking for your analysis in a bit. All right, now before we begin, is there any vocabulary you would like to know about?
Miss, the first word in the fourth line.
Right, a frisson of excitement is like a shiver of excitement, like an electric current. All right, so we're all happy with the word scarlet body. Do we know what we're talking about?
Yes, miss.
How would you put it in very easy words? A scarlet body is?
It's a reddish colored.
A red? Yeah. What body are we talking about? The body of a?
Formula F1.
Okay, we're talking about the body of a car, right? Okay, so what does dismissive mean? Ibrahim Hassan, dismissive? Ibrahim Hassan? Ibrahim Hassan? All right. Dismissive? Bilal, what does dismissive mean?
Showing something that is unworthy.
Very nice. That's a good way of putting it, right? So you don't think much of it, you're scornful, you're like, yeah, what, not a big deal kind of an attitude, right? Okay, so the others don't think that this person is a big deal, but this person's very excited, right? Okay, now Bilal, I would like you to break down the sentence and tell me what you think about it.
It is very descriptive and it
Okay,
shows
what
how
makes
the
it
writer
descriptive?
feels.
Okay, good. That's one important thing to focus on. If you can show in your writing how the writer feels about whatever you're talking about, it always helps to make your writing more powerful. That's one important thing to take away. Bilal, what else do you see in the sentence? Anything else that makes it effective?
It shows the how the car was looking like and how much excited the person was and how much the others thought of him.
Right. So it shows what the car looked like. That was missing in the first one, right? It shows how exciting. Now, in the first sentence, it just said that the race was very exciting, and that was about it. What over here shows excitement, Bilal? The word excitement has not been used. Well, actually, it has. Okay. But let me take that sentence away. A frisson of excitement, it shows you excitement much more vividly than just saying that the race was exciting, right? Because the idea of a current or an electric current running down your back, right, makes you feel it a lot more. Okay, anything else that
No.
makes a sentence effective? Okay, anybody else? Aman, any ideas?
It describes the environment in a way that it feels that you're inside the paragraph, in the setting of the paragraph.
All right. It definitely gives a lot more of the feel of the environment. Good. Well done. Anything else?
This complex, different uses of compound and complex sentences.
Very nice. Right. Okay. So one thing that if a student looks at it, if I give these two sentences to a lot of people, the thing that will hit about 100% people is that the English in the second one is better. What makes it better? A lot of people will say vocabulary. Right? So vocabulary is very obvious. What is less obvious is that the sentence structure, and this is what we were talking about last time and this time, the sentence structure is a lot more sophisticated here, right? So it was about to begin. We don't know what it is, right? And I couldn't believe it continues in, working on the suspense. Delayed revelation itself is a very good technique for story writing, for narrative writing, right? And there's a very close connection between something about to begin and your excitement about it, right? And then there's a very short first sentence, right? Sentence number 1 was about 2/3 of the line, right? This is sentence 1. Sentence 2, very short, just 4 words. This is a simple sentence, and you realize how effective it is, right? Compared to the rest of the paragraph, which is much longer sentences. Don't dismiss a short sentence. A short sentence can be your most powerful tool, especially when it's used as contrast with the rest of the paragraph. All right? Especially if you control it enough for it to contain key information, right? This is like a summary of the entire paragraph. This is what we call a topic sentence when you're doing your summary writing. Okay, so then we continue with another simple sentence. It's much longer. Oh, sorry about that. Just a minute. The second one is much longer, right? The second simple sentence is much longer. And then we have the dash. What's the dash doing over here?
Dramatic pause.
All right, good, Ali. This is, we talked about the dramatic pause last time, right? This is a dramatic pause. Also, it is separating extra information. Also, it is adding a comment. All right, it's doing 3 things all in one, right? So, and then you have another sentence, and this time it is a compound sentence, right? Right? Okay, so we've got, sorry, this is a complex sentence. So we've got a variety of sentences all within one short paragraph. And this is what I will be looking for you to be able to show me in your narrative writing. Because when I check your narrative writing, I'm not going over the whole essay, checking how many complex sentences have you used. That's not how it works. What I'll do when I need to check your variety of sentences for a particular purpose is I'll just take a look at 2 or 3 random paragraphs. Every paragraph needs to have a variety, right? And not just a variety, but a variety controlled for a particular purpose. Are you controlling why you're using the simple sentence? Are you controlling why you're using the complex sentence, right? You remember in the complex sentence, we added details, right? A frisson of excitement ran down my back, and then why you had that. Sorry, not in this case, it's not why. In this case, it's when did it happen? You know, it happened as you ran your hand over the body of the car, right? Okay. On the other hand, what does a compound sentence do? You have already mentioned to me that it has joined 2 different sentences, right? So it's joined 2 different ideas together, right? Are you using a simple sentence to give a key idea? Are you using a compound sentence because you need to join those 2 ideas together? Are you using a complex sentence to add detail to your writing, right? So the purpose of which structure you use, this is very sophisticated control, and while it does not look so, it doesn't stand out to a person who's not trained to recognize it, right? Once you recognize it, you'll see it everywhere, right? So over the last 2 lessons, we've looked at understanding types of structure. We've looked at understanding the effects of structure, right? What does a simple sentence do? What does a compound one do? What does a complex one do? And I mentioned here that we will be talking about the effects in much more detail when we have an in-person class where I can show you longer texts and we can analyze how the structure is working within those texts. The last thing that we're doing is controlling structure for a particular purpose, right? The sentence structure should be like the background music of a movie, right? You've all seen horror movies. And the thing about horror movies is that if you switch the sound off, they aren't even that scary, right? They're just like, okay, nothing happening, just a couple of feet moving along, right? What makes it scary is the background music. The rising crescendo, going louder and louder and louder, and then the sudden stop, the dramatic pause, and then your heart stops for a moment because you know something's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen, right? That's the role of background music in a movie. And that is the role of your sentence structure in your story, right? Your sentence structure needs to reflect the content of what you're writing about. It needs to reflect the action. You can't have, it would be a disaster if you have some nice la 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 music, some wedding music or some dance music in the background when you have a horror movie, right? If you have a suspense scene. Equally, if you have a happy scene and you've got some tragic music going on, it just won't work, right? Similarly, if you have a suspense scene in your writing, and you're using lots of long sentences, right? It won't work, right? You need to control the kind of sentence that you're using and match it with your content and with your action. All right. I want to look at other aspects of controlling tone so that you can control your sentences better. And what I want you to do next is when I call out your name, just read out the sentence, right? They all contain the word really. The only difference between them is of punctuation, right? And so I'll just call out the number and I want you to read it the way it is written. All right. Mowahid, number 1. Mowahid. Wahid here. All right. Aman Zubair. Aman Zubair. Okay. Ahmed Shafiq. Ahmed Shafiq. Ahmed Shafiq. Not here right now. Okay. Daud. Daud.
Yes, miss.
Right. Let's hear you read out number 1.
Really?
Good. Let's hear you read number 3.
Really?
Very nice, right? So there was a distinct difference between when you said it with a full stop and when you said it with a question mark, right? Okay. Haris. Haris Bakar. Haris Bakar. Not here? Okay. Hussein Asad. Sayyid Hussein Asad.
Yes, miss.
All right. Sweetheart, can you read out number 3?
Really?
Good. Can you read out number 2?
Really?
Haha. You see, this one was a lot harder, right? So number
Yes.
1 and number 3, there's a distinct difference, right? A statement and a question. Very easy to do, right? But number 2 and number 3, number 2 is an exclamation. You're not really asking a question, right? It's like an exclamation expressing disbelief, right? And question number 3, word 3 is also expressing disbelief, but this time it's posed as a question, right? You're actually asking, right? So number 2 and number 3 aren't as easy to distinguish, which is why if you can control number 2 and number 3 in your writing, or even in your speaking, but especially in your writing, it shows your control over smaller things, right? Okay. Yes, Nadav, you had a question?
Yes, miss.
Yeah.
Miss, how to pronounce number 5?
We're not up to number 5 yet, sweetheart. Give me a moment. All right. Now you give it a try. How would you pronounce number? Let's see. Let's try with 4. Another. How would you pronounce number 4? Number 4 isn't easy either.
Really?
Okay. What does a dash show in dialogue?
Miss the dramatic
We
pause.
talked about the dramatic pause. Good. I'm glad you remember that. In dialogue, it also serves another purpose, right? If you're using direct speech and you use a dash, you could be showing that your speaker has been interrupted. All right. Now keep this in mind. And number 5, if we're using an ellipsis, you could be showing that your speaker has stopped talking. Not that the speaker has been interrupted, not that somebody else started speaking, but just stopped talking. They might have stopped talking because perhaps they realized something, or maybe somebody walked into the room and they didn't want to continue the conversation in front of them, or maybe they're dying, whatever is happening in your story. Okay, but they've stopped talking for some reason. Now that you want to give it another shot now, number 4 and number 5.
No, miss.
Okay. Anyone brave enough to try number 4 and number 5? Anyone? No one interested in the dramatic arts? All right, I'll give it a shot. I'm not that great myself, but I'll read out all 5 for you. We're talking about a single word. Really? 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 Right? So there's a very small difference between all of them, right? But like I said, if you can control those differences, if you can show that you can use a range of experiences, a range of expression, that always shows your control over your writing. All right. Now, yes, Sami, you had a question?
Yes, miss. Miss, I don't know where to use this three doors after using the word. Can you please
Okay, an
explain this?
ellipsis, I'll explain it.
Yes, miss.
An ellipsis is used for different things in English. The way I use it most frequently with my students is to show that something is sort of tailing off. If it's used in direct speech, it means that the writer has stopped speaking. Maybe they've started thinking, or maybe they stopped speaking because somebody came into the room, or maybe they stopped speaking because they're painting, right? But for some reason, they've decided that they can't go on, right? It's different from an interruption. An interruption is like if I'm speaking and somebody cuts in between and starts speaking instead of me, that would be shown by the dash, right? And ellipsis shows that my voice is just sort of petered out, right? For example, I was talking and it sounds like I'm still talking and I'm about to say something else, but I've just stopped talking. All right. So that is when we would use an ellipsis. Other reasons to use an ellipsis are if we're showing some missing text when we're quoting. I don't want you to do that at all. Okay, not in your English class. But it's done in Pak studies or in other subjects, right? We also use an ellipsis when we want to show action has tailed off. This is done in a very particular way, and I would rather I would become more comfortable if I actually showed you a text first and then you could try it out. All right. I hope that answers your question, Sami. All right. I want you to take a quick look at this at these 3 sentences. All right. Now you notice that the wording is exactly the same. It's practically a copy paste, right? Especially the first 2 sentences. What's different? What's different? Anyone?
the type of expression used.
Mm-hmm. What can you see that is different? How do you know that the expression is different?
Yes, for example, in when we compare the first and second sentence, the
Uh-huh.
uh, the second one seems to give a greater pause between all these between everything, and it maybe gives a different type of message to the reader.
Very nice. Aman, you haven't got the right words yet, but you've definitely got hold of the right idea, right? So in the second sentence, there seems to be a stronger pause. And also you said, sorry, what was the second thing you said? You also said something else. There's a stronger pause and it gives
A different idea to the reader,
a
a
different
different
idea.
context.
What kind of idea? What kind of context?
Um, uh,
It's not an easy question. Okay, take a moment to think about it. I'll come back to you, Aman. Right? Okay. Anybody else? What about the last two sentences? Okay, sorry. Before we discuss that, what kind of sentence structure? Anybody apart from Aman, can you tell me what kind of sentence structure is this? Anyone?
Miss, it's a simple structure,
Is it a
a
simple structure?
simple
Complex.
sentence. Miss,
I mean, look at the sentence structure. What is the extra detail and what is the main sentence? Can you see it?
yes, Miss, but I think that it's an extra instruction given with a lot of interest.
All right, that's a problem giving definitions in English. And I'm not saying you're the only one. It happens to my students every year. Because especially students who take computer sciences and who have a more mathematical mind, they find English a little more difficult because sometimes you just have to develop a feel for the language, right? Over here, it seems as if there's one simple sentence because there's just one idea being talked about. It's a relatively easy sentence, right? But there's just one idea, there's just one subject, and we're done. But look at the structure of the sentence, right? And this is very important. This will be extremely important when you read for your reading paper, whether it's summary or whether it's comprehension. There are two parts to the very first sentence. Actually, all of them are nearly the same sentence. Just discuss the first one. There are two parts. There is the extra detail and there's a main sentence. Sami, can you tell me what the extra detail is? Now that I'm saying there's extra detail, what is the extra detail?
With a lot of interest.
Very nice, right? So with a lot of interest is your extra detail. So Sami, what's your main sentence?
Zara read the advert.
Okay, very good. Zara read the advertisement, right? Zara read the advert is your main sentence. With a lot of interest is your extra detail. Can that extra detail stand by itself? If we write a sentence just saying capital letter with a lot of interest, full stop, can we write that as a separate sentence?
No, Miss.
No. This is what makes this sentence complex. Are we all clear?
Yes, Miss.
Yeah, does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So what has happened in this sentence is Zara read the advert is your main sentence. With a lot of interest is an extra detail dropped in between, right? It gives more detail about how she read the advert, and it's incomplete. This is what makes a sentence complex, right? The structure has changed. All right, Aman, coming back to what you were, your ideas, you were thinking about what's the difference between the first and the second sentence. Have you thought about it, about what you'd like to say?
Yes. Uh, Maybe it gives a hint of sarcasm, maybe in the second one.
Could be, could be. Not necessarily, as you said, maybe, but could be. The point is that in the first sentence, what's the difference between the two? The words are exactly the same. What's the difference?
Miss, it gives more emphasis to
You're
the
talking about effect. Aman, sorry, I'm stopping you. You're talking about effect. You're right. I want you to zero down onto what you can physically see on your screen. What is the difference?
Miss, no commas.
Okay, so what are commas? Commas are a part of?
Miss, Miss, they're separating the dependent clause from the independent clause.
So right, they're doing that, right? So commas are punctuation, dash are punctuation, brackets are punctuation, full stop is punctuation. So what are we doing? We're controlling the, as you pointed out, there's a different tone, there's a different feel, there's a different effect in the two sentences, and the words are exactly the same. So there's no change in vocabulary, there's no change in sentence structure, and yet you can feel that something is different, right? So what has changed the tone in these two sentences? Your choice of
Yes.
Punctuation.
punctuation. All right. I want you guys to understand that you can control tone in many different ways, right? The most obvious one is through vocabulary, but punctuation, like sentence structure, is a more subtle way of controlling your tone, right? So, for example, look at the last two sentences. They both use brackets. Which one sounds more neutral? Which one sounds more excited?
Miss, the last one,
The last one is what? More neutral or more excited?
excited.
Okay, so the last one will work for excitement, right? Would you use the last sentence in a report?
No, Miss.
No, because the report is formal, it's not about excitement. On the other hand, what kind of directed writing might you find the last sentence in?
Miss, informal letters.
Very nice, Gao, right? An informal letter. An exclamation mark is very informal to begin with, right? So is a dash. So the difference, one of the effects that Aman was talking about in the first two sentences is that when we use a dash, it sounds a lot more informal. It sounds a lot more dramatic. It sounds a lot more, like something's happening. On the other hand, the first sentence is a lot more formal, right? Just the commas. You notice the sentence structure of all four sentences is exactly the same. The vocabulary is exactly the same. I controlled it, right? But what I did also control is to show you the difference that punctuation makes in your writing, right? So there are lots of things that can control your tone, right? And
Miss?
over here, yes.
Miss,
It's
I want
11
to bring
o'clock.
some.
Okay, I was about to wind up in 1 minute, but if you need to leave,
I
that's
am
fine.
very sleepy.
Okay, all right. So of course, is the content. What are you including? What are you leaving out? All right, that's very important in controlling your tone. We've just discussed punctuation in some detail. Register is the kind of language you're using, the kind of vocabulary you're using, right? And then voice. What's voice? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, voice is
The loudness, Miss, maybe in question marks and exclamation marks.
Okay. That's a good try. I was talking grammatically though. Voice is like active voice and passive voice, right? So which one do you choose to write in and your sentence structure and all, right? That will also control your tone, right? So we'll discuss that in more detail in a different lesson. Right, so we'll stop over here. I wasn't planning to go into the details of all of these, but I just wanted to show you essentially how crafting a sentence can be controlled in so many different ways, right? And I want you to focus, especially in vocabulary, on content and punctuation, because these three things we've covered, and you should have, I'm hoping you'll develop good control over it. Okay, so we'll stop here, right? And inshallah, next time we will be reviewing the narrative tenses, because there were a number of gaps shown by a large number of students, and I hope the lesson will help to fill in those gaps. Right. Okay. Allah Hafiz, everyone. Have a good day. I'll be putting up your homework this evening, and I hope you have a good time till we meet again. Allah Hafiz.